An Air India flight to Vancouver that turned back mid-air after nearly 8 hours has now become a textbook case of how a single operational lapse can trigger massive cost and reputational damage. What went wrong was not a technical failure or a weather disruption. It was a compliance and planning error, one that should have taken care or caught well before takeoff. Flight AL185 departed from Delhi as scheduled, but the aircraft assigned to the route, a Boeing 777-200LR, did not have the required regulatory clearance to enter Canadian airspace. Air India is authorized to operate its Boeing 777-300ER fleet on Canadian route, but not this specific aircraft variant. In international aviation, such approvals are highly specific. They are tied to aircraft type, configuration, and sometimes even individual tail numbers. These are not last-minute checks. They are part of detailed pre-flight planning involving multiple layers of clearance and verification. Failure, therefore, happened on the ground, somewhere in the chain of scheduling, compliance check, and operational coordination. The mismatch between aircraft and route was not flagged. By the time the aircraft was airborne and deep into the journey, the error was discovered. Reportedly, when it was already flying over Chinese airspace. At that point, the crew had no option but to abort the mission and return. Continuing would have meant violating international aviation regulations, which could have led to serious legal and diplomatic consequences. The cost of this mistake is significant and multi-layered. First, fuel burn. A Boeing 777 typically consumes around 8 to 9 tons of fuel per hour. With nearly 8 hours spent in the air, the flight burned 10 tons of aviation fuel without reaching its destination. This alone translates into a massive financial hit. Second, operational disruption. The aircraft was tied up for almost an entire duty cycle, impacting scheduling for subsequent flights. Crew hours were consumed and regulatory limits on pilot duty time would have required fresh crew arrangement for the rescheduled flight. Third, passenger handling. The airline had to arrange hotel accommodation, meals, and rebooking for the passengers. Compensation liability may also arise depending on regulation and ticket conditions. Fourth, network impact. A long-haul aircraft being unavailable for nearly a full day can disrupt multiple downstream operations, especially in a tightly managed fleet environment. And finally, reputational cost. For an airline rebuilding its global brand, such incident raise concern about internal process and reliability. Passenger may forgive delay, but a flight that goes nowhere due to a preventable oversight sends a very different signal. In simple terms, it was not an unavoidable crisis, it was an avoidable error. The incident highlights how aviation depends not just on technology and flying skills, but on precision and coordination behind the scene. Every aircraft assignment, every route clearance, every regulatory approval must align perfectly. When that system breaks down, even briefly, the consequences are immediate and expensive. In this case, the aircraft completed a full long-haul journey without even leaving the starting point, and that is what makes the mistake both costly and consequential.